What if the future already wrote the moment Jamie Fraser dies, and the proof is sitting inside a history book? Imagine reading a page that says the man you love will die in a war that hasn't even happened yet. That is the terrifying situation Jamie and Claire now face. At the end of episode 1, a shocking detail from Frank Randall's history book revealed that Jamie Fraser is supposed to die during a battle in the American Revolution. But the question that now haunts everyone is simple. Is this future fixed, or can it still be changed? Episode 2 begins to explore this mystery, and one small detail may give Jamie a tiny spark of hope. The story becomes even more intense when Jamie and Claire begin to read deeper into the history book written by Frank Randall. This book was brought back through time by Brianna, and it contains records of events that, for Jamie and Claire, have not happened yet. At first, it simply seemed like a strange connection to the future. But soon the book reveals something much darker. According to Frank's research, Jamie Fraser is supposed to die during a battle in the American Revolution. For Claire, this discovery is almost impossible to accept. She has already lost Jamie once in her life, when they were separated by time. And the idea that history itself might take him away forever is terrifying. Jamie, however, reacts differently. He has faced death many times before. From the brutal Battle of Culloden to countless fights and dangers across the colonies, Jamie knows that war always carries the risk of death. But this situation feels different. This time the threat is not coming from an enemy on a battlefield. Instead, it comes from the pages of a book written many years in the future. The idea that someone already recorded the moment of his death makes the situation feel almost unreal. Claire studies the book carefully, hoping to find more details. She wonders if the information might be wrong or incomplete. After all, history books do not always tell the full story. Sometimes events are misunderstood, and sometimes records are missing. But even with that hope, the fear remains. If the book is correct, then Jamie's death is already part of history. As Jamie reads the description of the battle, one question keeps returning to his mind. If this event truly happens in the future, does that mean nothing can change it? Claire has already changed history in small ways since she arrived in the past. Many events that were supposed to happen did not unfold exactly the same way. Because of this, the possibility still exists that Jamie's fate could also change. But the uncertainty creates tension between hope and fear. Claire cannot stop imagining the worst possible outcome. Every time Jamie prepares for battle, she may now wonder if it will be the one described in Frank's book. Every decision Jamie makes from this point forward suddenly feels more dangerous. The American Revolution is slowly growing closer, and the colonies are becoming more divided every day. Loyalists support the British crown, while rebels fight for independence. Jamie knows that sooner or later he will be pulled into this conflict. It is a war that will shape the future of the entire continent. But now he also knows something else. Somewhere in that coming chaos, history claims that he will die. Yet Jamie Fraser is not the kind of man who simply accepts fate without question. Instead of allowing fear to control him, he continues reading the book carefully. He searches every line, every detail, hoping to understand the moment that history describes. If the book truly predicts his death, then maybe it also hides clues about how that moment happens. And as he studies the description of the battle more closely, Jamie begins to notice something strange. There is one important detail missing from the story. At first, it seems small, almost unimportant. But the more he thinks about it, the more it begins to bother him. Because according to the book, Jamie is present in the battle where he dies. But the men who always fight beside him are never mentioned. For most people, this detail might not matter. But for Jamie Fraser, it changes everything. As Jamie continues reading Frank Randall's history book, something about the story begins to feel wrong. At first, he cannot explain it. The battle described in the book sounds serious and dangerous, just like many battles during the American Revolution. The words describe soldiers, chaos, and the terrible cost of war. But the more Jamie reads, the more one strange detail begins to bother him. The book talks about the battle where Jamie Fraser is supposed to die. It describes the moment as if it is already part of history. But there is something missing from the story, and Jamie quickly realizes what it is. The book never mentions the men who usually fight beside him. For Jamie Fraser, that is a very unusual thing. Jamie has never been the kind of leader who fights alone. Throughout his life, he has always been surrounded by loyal men who trust him and stand beside him in battle. These men are not just soldiers. Many of them are friends who have followed him through danger again and again. They know how he fights. They know how he leads. And they have always been part of every battle he has faced. Because of this, the idea that Jamie would be fighting in a battle without them feels strange to him. Jamie reads the passage again slowly, paying attention to every line. The book describes the battle clearly, but it never mentions his usual group of men. There are no names he recognizes. No sign of the people who would normally stand beside him when danger arrives. This small detail begins to change the way Jamie thinks about the future written in the book. If the story in the book were completely accurate, then surely his men would be there with him. History usually remembers the leaders of battles, but it also remembers the groups and units that fought with them. The absence of these details makes Jamie question the story. Claire watches him carefully as he studies the page again. She can see that something has changed in his expression. At first he looked worried and tense, but now there is something else in his eyes. A small spark of curiosity, and maybe even hope. Jamie finally speaks his thoughts out loud. He explains that he has never gone into battle without the men who trust him. If the book truly describes the moment of his death, then those men should be there too. But they are not. Claire begins to understand what Jamie is thinking. If the book does not mention the men who usually fight with him, then maybe the situation in the future is not exactly the same as the one Jamie will actually face. Perhaps the writer of the book did not know the full story. Or perhaps history recorded the event incorrectly. There is also another possibility. Maybe Jamie is not even supposed to be at that battle at all. The idea may sound strange, but it gives Jamie something he did not have before, a reason to question the future. If the details in the book are incomplete, then the event described in its pages may not happen exactly the same way. For Claire, this thought brings a small sense of relief. She knows that time is complicated. Her own journey through time has already proven that the past and future are not always fixed. Some events seem impossible to change, but others can unfold differently, depending on the choices people make. Jamie closes the book for a moment and looks toward the quiet land of Fraser's Ridge. The world around him is peaceful for now, but the storm of revolution is slowly approaching. Sooner or later, he will be forced to take part in the war that will shape the future of the colonies. But now he carries a new thought with him. Maybe the future written in Frank Randall's book is not the final truth. Maybe history is only telling part of the story. And if that is true, then Jamie Fraser's fate may not be sealed after all. While Jamie and Claire wrestle with the unsettling revelations from Frank Randall's book, another storm is quietly brewing at Fraser's Ridge, one that could put everyone in grave danger. At the start of episode 1, Jamie and Claire are staying with Fergus and Marsali before returning to their home. What was meant to be a warm reunion quickly turns tense when they notice something troubling. Fergus, ever passionate and headstrong, has become deeply involved in rebel activities. He is secretly writing political materials and pamphlets criticizing the British government. To him, it is not just a hobby, it is a moral duty. He believes in fighting for freedom and cannot ignore the injustice he sees around him. Marsali supports him, though she worries for their safety. This rebellion, however, carries immense risk, especially in the politically unstable colonies, where every word against the crown could lead to deadly consequences. Jamie, ever cautious and protective, had already warned Fergus about the danger. He knows that being connected to the rebellion could put not only Fergus, but also his entire family in jeopardy. The British government and loyalist spies are everywhere, and one careless move could result in imprisonment or worse. But Fergus, driven by his convictions, refuses to stop. He is certain that the cause is worth the danger. Claire watches the exchange silently, recognizing the complexity of the situation. She understands Fergus's ideals, but she also knows the brutal realities of the world around them. Unlike the theoretical dangers of Frank's book, this threat is very real and immediate. Every night, the Ridge could be watched by loyalists, and every encounter with outsiders could bring unforeseen consequences. This tension begins to affect the household. Marsali, who often acts as the bridge between Fergus and reality, struggles to mediate. She loves her husband and admires his courage,